MassTransit was thrilled to be invited by the Diocese of La Crosse, Wisconsin, to produce an episode on the recently completed restoration of the St. Joseph the Workman Cathedral, the mother church of the diocese. 143 parishes throughout the diocese and more than 2,200 donors assured that the diocese reached and then exceeded its fundraising goal. Joining in celebration with all in the diocese, we are blessed to bring you the first episode of our second season. The title, Beacon of Light and Hope. Catholicism was brought to Wisconsin in the 1660s. The area was governed by 6 different episcopal sees until 1868, when the Diocese of La Crosse was first mapped out. The Diocese of La Crosse was initially formed by splitting up the Diocese of Milwaukee, which was the entire state of Wisconsin, giving the land west of the Wisconsin River to the Diocese of La Crosse. In 1905, when the Diocese of Superior was formed, the borders shifted. And in 1946, when the Diocese of Madison was carved out, the border we know today was established. Bishop John Patrick Tracy became the 5th bishop of the diocese in 1948. In 1955, he announced that a new cathedral would be built. Groundbreaking took place on January 4, 1960, exactly 97 years to the day that the parish was formed in 1863. For the first time in history, a cathedral would be dedicated to St. Joseph under his title, St. Joseph the Workman. On September 11th of 1960, the cornerstone for the new cathedral was placed by Bishop Tracy. On Wednesday, April 11, 1962, the first Mass was offered in the new cathedral. The Most Reverend John Patrick Tracy would pass away in October of 1964. Over the ensuing 45 years, apostolic succession would bring 4 bishops to the Episcopal See of the Diocese of La Crosse, each shepherding and ministering to the faithful flock. Today, the diocese is headed by the Most Reverend William Patrick Callahan, who was appointed in 2010. The year 2022 marks the 60th anniversary since the first Mass was offered in St. Joseph the Workman Cathedral. Over those 60 years, the Diocese of La Crosse has celebrated many blessings. Over the same 60-year period, the structure or bones of the building have remained strong, but the smooth-cut Indiana limestone has deteriorated. The restoration we celebrate today has prevented this from reoccurring through advanced craftsmanship and technology. Bishop Callahan and members of the cathedral parish recognized the dire need to restore the cathedral to its original prominence.
There have been a lot of things that are going on and a lot of things that we didn't really quite plan on, but were kind of revealed to us. We were called, first of all, to pick up stones that were falling from the steeple into the street below. Main Street here, downtown La Crosse, 6th Street. We decided that there was going to be a plan for that, and we had some good people, some astonishing parishioners who were able to come to our aid and really start working and seeing things, and they too had ideas. Comfort became a factor. Then, as the inside came together, several of the exterior ideas started to shine upon us. And thanks be to God, the parishioners were very generous. The people throughout the diocese are very generous. This is the Mother Church.
And oh, what a beautiful mother she is. Before meeting with the rector of the cathedral and a number of cathedral parishioners, we asked Bishop Callahan the question, just what is a cathedral?
Simple enough. The cathedral gets its name from that chair in every diocesan church that bears the name of the cathedral. The cathedra, or the chair, is the place whereupon the bishop of the diocese sits for Mass, for the celebration of sacraments, for the promotion of various kinds of honors or whatever is going on. We've had a number of things go on here, and nevertheless, the importance of the cathedral is that it is the mother church of the diocese. The bishop is officially the pastor of the church. This particular parish and all of them like it is protected and cared for by the rector of the cathedral. And in this case, that's Monsignor Richard Gillis.
The architecture of the cathedral is quite unique in that it's neo-Gothic. There's kind of an upward thrust, and you see it with the peaks and the arches. Your eyes are lifted upward, so especially when you enter into the cathedral from the main doors, we call that the Porta Coeli, the gate of heaven. And so when you walk in through those main doors, off of the plaza, off of the main street, you see this magnificent cathedral open up before your eyes, and automatically your eyes go long and far and up. And that's somewhat the trajectory of our spiritual journey, is that we keep our eye on the prize, we lift our eyes up, and it's a bit of a journey. And as you know, the cathedral it's quite large, and from the main door to the altar where the sacred action occurs, it's a good distance. And so that is symbolic of our traveling on the path. But when we're doing that, hopefully your eyes are going upward all the time. You've got the altar of sacrifice, which is the preeminent piece of furniture, if you will. And then you see the crucifix, which was hung on January 13th. I came up with a beautiful work that was commissioned from a company in northern Italy, and I must admit, it is magnificent. And over again, I hear how people marvel at that crucifix. And when people come up for communion, I always see their eyes fixed on that crucifix. It's really just a marvel to behold and to contemplate. I always tell people we're trying to create this sense of that the altar has prominence and dominance. And that's why I even put the candlesticks back on the altar and then put that frontal piece there. Because despite the fact that the altar is incredibly large and huge, there is the great window behind it that emits a lot of light. And so it kind of got washed out. And it's almost impossible to think that would occur, but it did. And so my idea is to make that altar really as the preeminent location in this cathedral, to stand out, to have that low center of gravity that is to give it some heft with that frontal cloth, with the candlesticks. And then now you see the crucifix above it. And then above that is the tester and that floating canopy. And then above that is the peaked ceiling, that Gothic ceiling pointing upward. So everything is up, and up. Worship is essentially a vertical experience. It's the worship of God.
Bob and Pat Perlock were married at the cathedral and have been members of the cathedral parish for 45 years. Pat is a retired medical professional. Bob's background in engineering, architecture, and construction proved invaluable in planning for the restoration of the cathedral. We asked them their thoughts on the architecture of the cathedral.
A big part of being here is the architecture for me. I think this is called neoclassical design. I still get distracted. A lot of times I'll just close my eyes to concentrate on prayer than thinking about how this was built and maintained. And of course there's all the windows, the beautiful windows that you could spend hours studying those.
I just think of it as a beautiful church. For me, it's not just the building, it's the people in it as well. I was just kind of awestruck with the beauty, and especially the altar and the window in the back, and it's beautiful photography for wedding pictures as well. Our wedding pictures are beautiful in this church. You know, it's powerful. It's just very powerful. Bob was actually very active in the restoration.
Well, and that has to do with Monsignor's just taking, I mean, he knew when 2 years ago when he was placed here that he had a big job, and I don't know anybody else that could have done this. The way he works with people, we knew it needed to be done, but we needed to get the right rector to make it happen.
Tammy Becker first entered St. Joseph the Workman Cathedral when she was a young college student, living 150 miles from home and all that was familiar to her. Her affection for this church is manifest to all who know her.
La Crosse is a really, really beautiful area with the Mississippi River and our beautiful bluffs, but this cathedral has a lot of beauty right here. People make pilgrimages here. They want to spend time, or many people only come into this church maybe once or twice in their entire life. When we were going through trying to decide what we were going to do when our church was falling apart, you know, they talked about taking the steeple down or closing this church up, and that was just so it was a really heartbreaking thing to even think about. So they kept saying, pray for a miracle. So we got our miracle. Things are looking pretty good here now, and when that scaffolding came down, that was such a good feeling. So I'm glad we get to celebrate the reopening. And you look at that cornerstone and it says September 11th, and we're going to celebrate on September 11th the beacon of light, beacon of hope, that celebration of the reopening of this cathedral.
Dr. Charlie Peters is a retired pediatrician and pediatric hematologist. He and his wife Jennifer have belonged to the cathedral parish for about 10 years. Dr. Peters dedicates much of his free time to St. Joseph the Workman Cathedral.
Everybody sees as, in some way, their home away from home, even if it isn't their home parish. I would say that the architectural style of this cathedral is really uplifting. And I would say that it raises one's thoughts to the heavens, to God. So just as incense travels up to God, so in this beautiful vaulted cathedral, our thoughts and our minds are raised up to God. I think the phrase beacon of light, beacon of hope is absolutely perfect and very fitting to use, not only on the date, but also to represent not just what the cathedral is structurally or architecturally, but what it sets out to be and do as witnesses of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
This will be a part of our history, and the history of the moment of this whole campaign of bringing the beautiful life of this cathedral back out into the neighborhood, the Diocese of La Crosse. A great place to be.